Russian oligarchs are often discussed in Western media, sometimes for good, and a lot of time for their extravagant lifestyles, shady businesses, and instrumental roles in Russian politics. Recently, Yevgeny Prigozhin was debated a lot following his attempt to coup in Russia with his private militia, the Wagner Group. You see, the world was shocked to see this attempt as he was considered quite close to the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. Not only he but the rest of his fellow oligarchs are also quite close to Putin, which is precisely why America and European countries sanctioned their private businesses as well. You see, the term oligarch is not new nor even unique to Russia. It describes a group of wealthy individuals with political influence, which pretty much all countries have. The reason why Russian oligarchs make headlines is because Putin has taken this concept to a new level. Russian oligarchs do not have influence but are directly involved in politics and take all sorts of benefits from Putin's regime. So, what does the Russian president get out of it? Well, the oligarchs support his domestic and foreign policies. Some even directly help him achieve his goal. Again, Yevgeny Prigozhin is a prime example of what the oligarchs can do for Putin. Back in 2014, when Putin invaded and annexed Crimea, the Wagner Group played an instrumental part. Other oligarchs won government contracts related to infrastructure construction in the newly occupied region. This unwritten agreement between the Russian president and oligarchs has been in place for decades and has helped both parties. While Putin has managed the holding power for over 2 decades, the oligarchs have become richer and richer. The wealth that these individuals possess is enormous. According to Anders Aslund, a senior fellow at the Stockholm Free World Forum and author of Russian Crony Capitalism, one must have a house of at least $100 million to be considered an oligarch. And it does not end here. One must also have at least one yacht worth $100 million. And yes, a private jet is also mandatory. All the Russian oligarchs have these 3 things. How did oligarchs become so rich? Now the question that pops up in my mind is exactly how these individuals got so wealthy and powerful. Well, it started back in 1991 when Mikhail Gorbachev was in power. Mind you, he was the last leader of the Soviet Union, which, as you know, was a communist regime. The economy was not liberated then, and some businessmen used it to their advantage. They would import important items such as personal computers and clothing to sell it at much higher profits, which made them hefty profits. The businessmen who used to import these items were well connected and shared their social circles. So, as soon as the Soviet Union collapsed and Boris Yeltsin became the first president of Russia, this group of businessmen emerged as a well-connected network of entrepreneurs. These individuals used their wealth to connect with the politicians, and when Russia transitioned to a market-based economy, they were ready to feast on it. During 1992 to 1994, Russia launched a voucher privatization program with which citizens could purchase shares in state-owned businesses. The individuals who had accumulated the wealth used arbitrage, a technique to purchase the stock at a lower price from one market and sell on the other at a little profit to make billions. Most of these individuals were young men who purchased the stocks of oil and gas industries at lower prices and sold them at much higher costs in the international market. The first wave of oligarchs formed a group called Semi-Bankrishchina, also known as the Seven-Banker Outfit. These 7 individuals, which included Roman Abramovich, Boris Berezovsky, Vladimir Gusinsky, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, Vladimir Putin, Alexander Smolenski, and Vladimir Vingofradox, started playing instrumental roles in Russian politics and even joined together to re-elect President Boris Yeltsin. By 2000, the group became so powerful that it controlled more than 70% of all Russian finances. The second wave of oligarchs. While these oligarchs enjoyed power and wealth, the public was not happy because they believed the selected individuals were responsible for the economic crisis in the country and the turmoil that followed USSR's dissolution. By then, the reign of Yeltsin was over as the new president with a background of intelligence ascended to power. Vladimir Putin seemed to share the sentiments with the public, even though he himself was backed by the same oligarchs, and soon as he held power, he announced a sort of all-out war against these individuals. Most individuals who made a fortune during the previous regime were either imprisoned, including a prominent oligarch, Mikhail Miroshvili, while others sold their assets and moved out of the country. Putin launched all sorts of investigations against these individuals, ranging from tax fraud to corruption in state departments. Soon after Putin launched this crackdown, the oligarchs were nowhere to be found except in prison or dead in their homes under mysterious circumstances. However, the purpose of this intense crackdown was not to benefit the Russian economy or its public, but to seize control of power and enable new individuals, who were mostly Putin's friends, to gain wealth and influence in the government. Friends of Putin who worked with him in the St. Petersburg municipal administration and during his time at KGB started making a fortune by getting all sorts of benefits from their friend. Gennady Timchenko, a close friend of Putin, received an oil export license, while others kept winning government contracts and made a business empire. These individuals received benefits from state-owned banks as well. Another guy named Arkady Rotenberg, who used to play judo with Putin, won the lottery as his childhood friend became president. By 2000, Arkady and his brother were involved in small-scale oil trading, but their lives completely changed when Putin held power. He created a new state liquor monopoly, Rospirtprom, by merging more than 100 liquor factories. This single group controlled more than 30% of Russia's entire vodka market, and Putin put his childhood friend Arkady in charge of it. It was just a start for Arkady, and he went on to win construction projects and build several gas and pipeline companies. Right now, the Rotenberg Group is probably the biggest beneficiary of Putin's regime. Despite their high prices, the government keeps handing them projects, and the Kremlin is cool with it. It is deals like these that make the public question Putin's regime, but unfortunately, he is too powerful to be held accountable. What role oligarchs play in Russian politics now? While oligarchs have political and social influence, their capacity has a ceiling, which is touched as soon as Putin draws the line. It is believed in Russia that while Putin can make your fortune, he can also break it, and he made it quite clear as soon as he got into power. So, oligarchs believe it is in their best interest to follow the Russian president if they want to keep enjoying the perks and privileges. Western leaders have sanctioned these individuals for their involvement in different crimes along with Putin's regime. However, experts believe it would not make a difference, and these sanctions will likely backfire. Oligarchy is a symbol of loyalty to the Russian president, and sanctions like this work as a litmus test for them. Oligarchs have only two choices to pick from: leave Putin and lose everything, or keep supporting him during the tough times to get rewards from him afterward. I think the obvious choice is quite clear. While it is believed that Russian oligarchs hold too much power, experts like Asland and Winters have different takes. They argue oligarchs also exist in American politics, and their impact on governmental policies is far higher than their Russian counterparts. Winters labels the Russian oligarchy as a sultanic oligarchy, which means instead of having the rule of law in a civil oligarchy, the oligarchs in Russia are tamed and controlled by a single but very powerful figure such as Putin. So the likelihood of them questioning a man who controls the entire state apparatus and uses it however he wishes is quite low. In contrast, the oligarchs in America accepted the rule of law long ago and tamed their behavior. However, they can spend a lot more on politics and influence the policy by offering financial benefits to the politicians. The key difference between the oligarchs of the two countries is their acceptance of the rule of law, which prevents American billionaires from partaking in shady schemes as it can land them in trouble. This is all for this video. We hope it was an informational piece. Let us know what you think of Russian oligarchs in the comment sections and whether they are any different from American ones. Stay connected with the channel for more such content. As always, we will see you at the next one.